Welcome back to another episode of the Bleav in Tigers podcast. I am your host, RJ Schafer. Today I'm joined by Brendan Burke. How are you doing today, man?
I'm pretty good. Just got out of work. Glad to be here with you. Like I said before this, I had my own podcast. I was about to meet with this guy. He canceled, so I came in here today instead.
Yeah, I mean it worked out perfect because we were kind of having a conversation beforehand, and it may not have worked out perfect, but it actually did. The only thing I wish would have came along with that was a Tigers win. Unfortunately, that did not happen. But first thing I want to talk about, I guess, is Keider Montero. He was back. He actually got sent down or got called up for Easton Lucas, who was in the MLB for a day, probably less than 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't necessarily get the start, but it was a Keider Montero kind of bullpen mixed day. So they had Holton out as a starter, and then Vest, and then Montero. He he hasn't looked amazing. The only thing that was really promising, I guess, was he had 19 swings and misses on the day, which was a lot more than we had expected. And he was kind of fired up on the mound. But going 4 innings, uh, 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts is probably the only thing that's enticing as a fan. Um, but I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on where do you think his role is in the future, because he has came in at times, but it seems like he's struggled in almost every start.
Yeah, I don't think he's long term, like long relief bullpen because you see like a lot of these teams they have like a long reliever who you can throw out there for 4 innings, like opposing Spencer Turnbull. Like they've been using him out of the bullpen, like the former Tiger who actually pitched today. But like I feel like he could be work as a setup man, in my opinion. Like I feel like he has the stuff to be like a potential maybe setup man, maybe a future closer. So that's what my opinion is on him.
And I think I don't know if he has like the control or what I would consider the like stamina um, of an actual starting pitcher, of an actual long reliever, but he does have stuff that may qualify him to be a decent guy in the bullpen, like you said, like kind of a setup guy. And we kind of saw that today because the off speed looks really good. He can hit 96, sometimes 97 on the fastball, but the long term of that isn't a lot, and maybe he just fits into that role. But I don't personally think that's something that happens for a while. I don't think
Yeah.
he makes an impact. And I was kind of surprised that the Tigers went to Montero again instead of Manning. Maybe Manning is injured, and I don't know.
Manning's been
Um,
struggling in AAA, and he pitched like the other night. And he allowed like 5 earned runs or something for like 4 innings.
that'll do it too. He, Manning is a guy that I would like to see succeed at this level. And Montero is a guy who hasn't found that kind of success. And I guess we've kind of been talking about this, but brings us to our next point. This was a bullpen game for both teams because Turnbull was kind of a starter this year for the Phillies at the beginning of the season, and then you know other starters came back from injury and he had to get pushed to the bullpen. He only ended up going 3 innings today, but that was really because of injury. It wasn't that was not what was planned.
Yeah,
He went 3 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, gave up a homer to Veerling. After that was okay. Um, and the I mean, Tigers had a very similar thing because Montero only went 4 innings, ended up using 4 guys in the
hmm
bullpen, which isn't bad. But we haven't seen a bullpen game in a very long time.
yeah. I think the last one was like back in April, early May. I don't remember when the last one was honestly.
Yeah,
And I feel like a lot of these bullpen games for us come like these 1 o'clock in the afternoon games on like a Wednesday, like today.
yeah, and I don't know if Hinch necessarily likes doing bullpen games because he kind of talked about it in the press conference. He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna be bringing up Montero, and we might Holton's gonna start, but we might put somebody in after that." Um, and he was kind of being mysterious about the whole thing, which I guess is how Hinch has been through the whole year. Like he has been completely mysterious, and that's kind of what the Tigers organization gives off. Um,
And another thing that we talked about this a little bit with Matt Manning, I think he might be out of options too. So maybe that's why Montero got the start and they
Mm,
just did a bullpen game too. So if they called him
yeah,
up, he's out of options.
that makes more sense. And for the Phillies, this wasn't scheduled to be a bullpen game like it was for us. They went through, I think it was 7 guys. Yeah, they went through 7 guys in the bullpen, all pitched an inning, and one guy that we got to see that I was super happy to see. You know, Turnbull is kind of a guy who the fans are very divided on. He's not. He wasn't a very loved guy in Detroit, but he definitely had his moments. There was the no hitter in 2021 that most people will remember, and then kind of faded off with the injury later in the career. Was in AAA and didn't make as big of an impact, but he has made a huge impact this year for the Phillies. Um, and he had what I would consider a decent outing. Past past the Veerling home run, which was 2 pitches into the ball game, he didn't give up a hit. Um, but he's a guy I was very, very, very happy to see back in Comerica Park.
I am too. I've been a fan of Turnbull. I met Turnbull when he was first with the Whitecaps. He's like a great guy, I think personally, once you get to know the guy. And he actually helped the Tigers in like that long stretch of like 2018 to 2022, 2023. He was actually like the ace for some time before like Scooble and Mines were even there. Like he was leading that rotation and everything. So it was just great to see him back in Detroit.
Yeah, and he kind of downplayed his emotions before the game, because I believed in Yella Bruce, who's the New Bally Sports Detroit reporter. She had asked him a question. How does it feel to be back in Detroit, and what are kind of the emotions that you have? And he tried to downplay it at first, and then he's like, yeah, this is a team, this is a city where I spend a lot of time, and there's a lot of love for a lot of people in this city, and you can tell it was something that touched him, you know, deeply, and that he really does love this city, um, but not necessarily that he could do anything about it right now because he has been great with the Phillies, and the Phillies,
Love,
fans love him.
and he's not the only
Um,
one that came back to the 3-1-3. We had Soto too, Gregory Soto.
yeah, and at Castellanos, this was actually Castellanos's first starting series back in Detroit since the trade, which it seems like it has been forever.
Yeah,
Um, and Soto pitched in this game too. I forgot to mention that.
like a Tiger.
Um, yeah, Soto looked amazing today. Soto looked like prime Soto, Detroit Tigers closer when he was on that level, because he was in the trade for Veerling, which
Yeah, who played
he
today?
he's our yeah he's our next topic. Um, Veerling has been incredible, and there's kind of been this narrative that has been pushed throughout Tigers Twitter and Tigers social media, especially through media personnel, that maybe it's time for Veerling to get into the All-Star game. And in the recent votes, they had shown that Green and Veerling weren't in the top 20 for outfielders, which was kind of shocking because Green has been one of the best outfielders, and I think he is deserving of an All-Star game. But Veerling today, granted, this wasn't even the best of games, but he was 2 for 4 with a home run at the very first pitch, and he's kind of embraced that leadoff role because it seems like every week you have another Veerling leadoff home run, and he's just a guy that is so electric to see in a lineup that has struggled. You've had guys that have struggled this season, even like your star players. Green has struggled at times. Perez has struggled at times. Canna, and we talked about this before the podcast. He has not been great. Chris Brown on Twitter, Chris Brown 0914 is his at, made a tweet today saying that Mark Canna is hitting 214 with 1 home run since May 1st, and that's a sub 70 WRC plus. Only Torkelson and McKinstry have been lower than that in that span. He's kind of been a guy we wanted to count on, but Veerling, through all of that, has been a guy that has still been electric, still been hitting home runs, matched his home run count from last season. He's just been so fun to watch in the leadoff position.
Yeah, and definitely like at the start of the season, I was like, this is his year. Like he needs to make it or break it, or he's out of here because we have like Badu, like we had Badu, we could have gave Badu another shot. You have other people's in the minors who's next turn up. Like he plays like a little bit of third base too. So like you have like John coming up, so you would have pushed someone like Torgerson would have been at third or something, or Colt Keith. So it's good to see him like step up and make a way for maybe another season or two to help us out.
Yeah, and there's been other guys who have been really great too that we haven't mentioned. Um, Andy Ibanez has been a guy who has kind of shown up out of
Nowhere.
literally nowhere. He has been hitting the hair off of the baseball against lefties. Here's a slash line, by the way, versus lefties. It is 385, 400, and 585.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen somebody, or 538. I'm sorry for slugging. We haven't seen slash lines like that since Miguel Cabrera, and it's so fun to see. He hasn't hit righties very well. Like his batting average is less than 200 against righties, but Andy Ibanez is so fun to watch because you can count on him to get on base. I mean, pretty much whenever he's against a lefty. Um, I just, me personally, really have enjoyed watching Ibanez because since the Kerry Carpenter injury, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Ibanez has kind of fit that role of a very, very, very good platoon hitter. You know,
And yeah, and I'm just looking at his stats right now, and since like in the last 2 weeks he's batting 429 and he has an on base percentage of 455.
yeah,
And that's
I mean it's completely ridiculous. Like he has struggled against righties. Like that's not something that we're hiding, but it just seems like every time you look, Andy Ibanez has another hit against lefties, and he has another 2 hit night, or has another night off the bench where he goes 1 for 1. It is so fun to watch Andy Ibanez play baseball.
and I think he should be a part of the future plans. A lot of people are like, "Oh, he's going to be gone after this year because you have like a couple names, Jace Young, like I brought up. Like a lot of people like, there's going to be no room for him when he gets there. Honestly, just give it a Baez at this point and just have Andy start. Like I think he might struggle against righties or something, or find a right-handed hitting shortstop and have him platoon like next season or something. That he deserves a spot on that roster.
Yeah, and you have had guys like you mentioned Baez. You've had guys who also have struggled. Like Kreidler has struggled throughout the year. McKinstry has struggled throughout the year. Keith is a guy who's kind of going to be there no matter what if he does struggle. But he's kind of been on and off. But you look at Ibanez, and he's a guy that you can see that you can build on. Like there's a few guys in this lineup that I can say with confidence could be here for a while. I feel like that's Ibanez. I feel like that's Vierling. I feel like that's Perez, and that's Green. Currently, out of people who are in the lineup, obviously
Yeah,
Carpenter
that's what I'm
is
gonna say.
injured.
And maybe if a little bit of Carson Kelly, like and Colt Keith too. Like he's on that. Like we just signed into that extension, so like he's not going to go anywhere soon. And
Yeah,
Carson Kelly, I feel like he's still hitting the ball well. He's not hitting like it like for average, but he's getting a lot of like power and like a high barrel rate and everything as well.
yeah, and I'm kind of. This is another thing I wanted to ask you. I don't know what we're gonna do with our catching situation because you have Carson Kelly and you have Jake Rogers, who have been good at like their respective things. Like I feel like Jake Rogers is a lot better of a defensive catcher. He has been, really good at saving runs from the catcher position. But Carson Kelly has probably been a better hitter and a more versatile hitter, especially with runners in scoring position. I don't know with the trade deadline coming up. Do you think we move one of those catchers and maybe call Dylan Dingler up because he has been solid at the AAA level? I just don't know what you do
Yeah.
if you're the Tigers organization at the catcher position.
If you're personally me, like if I would say if I stepped in this guy here's shoes, I would let Dingler stay the rest of the year in the minors, just give him like the extra year in the minors, reevaluate at the off season at that time, just keep both catchers up for now. I think like Kelly only signed like a 1 year deal like with Artur. I can't pronounce it, arbitration or how to pronounce it. I can't pronounce it to save my life. I'm sorry, but like give him that 1 year, and I think Rogers is like an unrestricted type free agent next year, so like he has
Mm,
options. Like he's like on like a 1 or 2 year deal, like but we have the rights to him if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
so, like I just feel like they should play the season out, or maybe it's time like okay, Dingler, the catcher's all set. Maybe learn how to play first base. See if they can teach him first base. Because you see a lot of these catchers in the past knew how to play catcher, first base. Like Mike Napoli's one of them. That like versatile like catcher and first base. And Mitch
And
Garver.
even like there were former Tigers like Victor Martinez could play first at one point in his career. Um,
So I
but
think
I
that
don't
might.
know.
I feel like maybe that should be a route they should experience at least for a year or two, especially with the way the thing. And Jake Rogers is the only standing Tiger player left from the Justin Verlander trade, so we kind of want him to pan out.
Yeah, and well, he Jake Rogers can play other positions too because he's played kind of like Eric Haas did. He's played left field, which seems so ridiculous for a catcher to go out and play outfield. But
Yeah,
um, and I
but Eric,
Bleav that the last time that happened was last season. But still,
but still, I just still think maybe it's time like one of the three catchers, one of them learns how to play first base somehow because Carson Kelly's only like 27, 28 years old too.
yeah, I think Carson Kelly and Jake Rogers are the same age right now. They're either
Yeah,
both 28 or they're both 27.
no, or 29. It's like somewhere in that range, like the
Yeah,
late 20s. But I feel like I don't want to see both of them go. I like both of them. I think they complement each other well. And I
yeah,
think that's actually one of our strong points. It might like their stats might not show otherwise, but I think they complement each other well. Like you're not
yeah,
going to put Carson Kelly at DH, and when Kerry Carpenter comes back, you'll put Kerry Carpenter at DH to start because within coming back from his injury when it's time. And the way like I said with Matt Vierling playing, he's been hitting the ball off really well. And then like from there you have like Wenzel, Green, Vierling, and Carpenter. That DH spot's going to be full with the
hmm
outfield. So
yeah.
like I
Well,
just feel like
and you have like a very versatile defense because you do have a lot of guys that
mhm,
could play anywhere, but that also ends up with a ton of guys being in line for DH because you have so many guys that can play outfield. You have a ton of outfielders who are now pushed out of the lineup and are either on the bench
yeah,
or on
and
DH.
Vierling plays third base. So if you put that in, and then you have Jace Jung come up next year, Verlin can go to third base. Keith can go to short, or Keith will go to. I mean, Verlin can play short. My bad. Verlin can go to short. You put Keith at third and Jung at second next year. Like, where's that going to leave Ibanez if we keep Ibanez around and everything?
Yeah, and well, I'm not sure if Canna will be here next year. That's another guy we don't know about.
And a 1 year deal anyway.
Yeah. Um, well, one thing I want to talk about from that happened in this game that kind of scared me. Riley Green has been, the cornerstone of this lineup. He's hit three pretty much the entire season.
Mhm.
He was hit by pitch today by Gregory Soto, which was kind of funny to see. Not funny to see him get hit by pitch. Funny to see, Soto pitch against his former team. And I just kind of wanted, we don't have to talk about this for long. Green, that was just a very scary moment as a Tigers fan. And, Green is a guy you do not want injured at all because he was injured last year. And
And the
the
year before that.
team, yeah. And the team has struggled heavily when Riley Green is gone. Um, just a scary moment as a Tigers fan.
Yeah, and glad he's all right. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious. Did they take him out of the game? Sorry, I didn't watch the game, so I apologize. I'm winging some of this, so sorry for those who are watching.
No, yeah. They didn't take him out of the game, but they had Hinch and the trainer come out, and it was just, it was a bit of a scary moment.
If we
Um,
play tomorrow, I think we have a game tomorrow. Give him an off day tomorrow, let him rest up, and hope everything goes full speed from there.
yeah, and one thing I wish was full speed, which wasn't really this game, was the offense. Um, the offense has kind of struggled in recent history. We have seen, I, I don't if you guys have watched every single game, people who are watching this,
Mhm.
um, there have been times in the past week where you score 11 runs versus the White Sox, or you score 13 runs, but it kind of seems like this Tigers offense is very streaky. Like there was no offense for pretty much this entire game. We scored in the first inning and in the ninth inning. There was one hit through the second and eighth inning. Like there was completely no offense. Maybe a couple of walks and a hit by pitch, and you get on base here and there, but nothing really producing a lot. It just kind of seems like the same old story for these Tigers. Like you can have somebody who pitches really well, like Skubal or Olson or Mize or Flaherty. Like you have a ton of guys who can go deep into a ball game, only let up 1 run, let up 0 runs. But it just seems like this offense has been lackluster, and that's how it was this game.
Hmm.
Scored 1 run late, scored 1 run early. And it kind of seems like I kind of touched on this, but I didn't fully say it. Tigers really only score in like 1 inning bursts. Like, go back 2 weeks ago when we scored 4 runs, all 4 runs were in the same inning. We go back to the Phillies game, all 4 runs were in the same inning.
And
It,
Sunday they
it just
scored
kind
like
of
8 runs
seems,
in like the first inning.
yeah, it's just, it's not a, I wouldn't even say they're a bad offense. It's just a very unreliable offense because you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and the question is like people are questioning the hitters, like maybe these hitters are not good enough. Like it comes down to the coaches too. I don't know if it's what's going on, but you can't just blame the players. You have to blame maybe the coaching staff. Maybe it's time for a change at hitting coach and everything.
Yeah,
So
and that's been a struggle for a minute for Tigers because there have been players who have came in and who were supposed to be highly touted, supposed to have, a really good offensive game, and they have just kind of struggled. And maybe the blame is to point on the coaches, and I do think that is true, but I don't know
it,
how soon that'll happen.
and I don't know if it you can't. I don't know if it's Comerica's to blame. They moved the fences in, so like they tried helping with that, but like I don't know if it's just the weather in Michigan. They should just maybe put a dome over Comerica. Who knows?
Yeah. Um, and this is our last topic. Um, Kind of wanted to talk about this because we are very close to halfway, 2 games away. This is technically the halfway series. We are 37 and 43 after 80 games. Last year we had 35 wins at this point, and I kind of wanted to pose a question to you. Do you think this is where we should be at this time? Because this is kind of a developmental year, kind of a year where you were maybe supposed to be competitive. Is this where we want to be as an organization, or do you think we should be somewhere else?
I think that it should be reversed. 43 and 37 is more fair, I feel like because I know that we had standards, like they're like we're low caliber wild card, maybe like the last wild card team. But to be fair, no one expected the Royals to be as good as they are this year either. Like no one had that on their radar. So like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like 37 is kind of disappointing, but like I said, if you reverse it 43, 37 is more fits. But I still think you need to get another bat in the lineup. Well, I'm not going to talk about trade deadline stuff right now because that's still like a month away. But at this rate, I'm saying you trade Manning or Scuba. I know Scuba's going to hurt. Be traded someone like that and try to get
Yeah.
back. So like save Baltimore calls for like with Jackson Holiday, Colton Cowser, or some combination of them. You take the offer to get your batting fix because we have enough pitching lined up in the minors right now. We have Ty Madden, you have Jackson Jobe. So, but like
Yeah.
you're giving all these young guys a chance to like Colt Keith's a rookie. Wenzel Perez is a rookie. This is Riley Green's first full season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
and I don't know if you I don't really know what the approach is because we're kind of like in the middle right now. Like we are literally in the middle phase where it kind of seems like in years past we have just been so deep in the rebuild, but now there's just like an inkling of hope, that the Tigers will hold on, but it's just kind of been rough. And well, is there anything else that you want to add?
I just think the record should be reversed. And like basically
Yeah.
that's the main thing about that. I think because no one expected us to be like, oh, we're the Yankees. Like when we're at 50 wins already this season or 60 wins already this season. The record I had them going like 500 this year, like 81 and 81. So they're close to it,
Hmm.
but I still think it should be 43 and 37, like in that range, not 37 and 43.
Well, and to be fair, I didn't think the division was going to be as strong as it is.
Yes, exactly. That's my point too. Outside of the White Sox, the division's been really strong.
Yeah. Um, but I guess that's all we had for you today. Just doing the housekeeping. Feel free to follow Brendan Burke on Twitter. You can find all of his socials there. we at Bleav in Tigers, we upload daily after every game, post game. Sometimes we'll do a recap, an upcoming preview of series to come. Um,
Hmm.
and that's all we have. Really, really would appreciate, for those of you who are watching this, really would appreciate leaving a review or, saying something in the comment section, because actually hearing input is a lot better than just, likes and dislikes. Um, but that's all we had for you. Uh, Go Tigers, and we will be back tomorrow.